guys, it's Reagan, and today I'm here to bring you a non-spoiler review of the Proustopia book club pick for the month of March, Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. And oh my god, before I even jump into this review, I just feel like I need to declare to the rooftops, this book was freaking awesome. This book has had a lot of hype around it. Not only did it already get a movie deal before it was published, I mean, like, everyone has been talking about this book because, let's be real, let's be honest, from the synopsis alone and the book cover alone, this book looked amazing. And as a huge fantasy lover, to say that I was excited to jump into this book is an incredible understatement. But before I jump into my thoughts and my review of this book, this is an Own Voices West African inspired fantasy story, so I'm gonna link down below some Own Voices reviews for you guys to check out as well. But all that being said, I'm now gonna jump into my review of this incredible fantasy debut. God, I just love fantasy. As I mentioned, this is a West African inspired fantasy story, and it's a multi-perspective tale. One of our main characters is Zelly, and she lives in a kingdom that was once enriched by magic. She recalls the day when her mother was using magic. The land was just completely filled with it, and the water in the land, you could feel it everywhere. And she most remembers the day when magic disappeared. The evil king that rules this land has basically figured out a way to eradicate magic from this world. That causes the individuals who could once use magic in this world to not only lose all their power but become incredibly persecuted by this kingdom. They're looked at as second-class citizens and treated horribly because of it. The beginning of the story, we follow our main character Zelly in her small village, and we get to know both her father and her brother. She struggles day to day to not only hold back her anger against the kingdom that essentially has done her wrong her entire life, but also just try to find herself in a world that wants to see her fail. We also follow two other perspectives. We follow a prince and princess, Amari the princess and the Prince Anan in this book as well. This story basically catapults into action, into plot, when Zelly and Amari cross paths and begin the journey to return magic back to this land. As I've said a couple times leading into this review, I absolutely loved this book. This book hit all the points on so many different layers and just included so many of my favorite things in fantasy, but also had such a fresh take on so many tropes we often see within YA, which just made it not only unique, fast-paced, incredible to read, and just the end, I need another one now. And the fact that I already know it's gonna be a movie just like makes my life, because this is gonna be an awesome movie. That being said, we do follow these three perspectives and they all kind of intertwine with each other, and therefore makes the plot very complex and rich, but also makes it dynamic and interesting because we get to see different happenings from different perspectives and also their take on what's going on, which I just feel like adds just so many dynamic layers. And my personal preference is to read multi-perspective fantasies. First and foremost, I have to talk about the characters. Zelly as a main character is just incredible. She's hot-headed and strong and proud and so admirable as she fights for what she believes in to not only protect her family, also everyone who's persecuted in this land and just the kingdom itself. Zelly isn't just some like perfect hero character. She's flawed, she makes mistakes, she learns from her mistakes, she has fears, she's angry, she's sad, and you get to see the full gamut of her emotions throughout this entire story, which makes her not only so relatable but powerful because you're rooting for her the entire time. But on top of that, there's a lot of other characters we get to experience. First off, there's two very awesome sibling relationships in this story that are very complex. We have Zelly, who I've just described, and also her brother, Tanzan, who is an individual without magic, and his whole life is just kind of protecting his over-eager sister who's constantly getting into trouble, and they have a lot of conflict because Tanzan just wants her to stay safe, just like keep things normal, where Zelly wants to carve her own path, make her place in the world. And seeing that dynamic throughout this book was really amazing, and also just how much they care for each other. Also, the endless boundaries they have to protect one another is just such a great thing to see. I absolutely love sibling relationships within stories, especially in fantasy, and this was one of my favorites. On top of that, we also follow another main character, Amari, who is a princess and the daughter of the evil king that took away magic. She, at the beginning of this book, steals a sacred scroll that kind of holds the key to magic and runs away and runs into Zelly. On top of that, she has her own brother, Anan. We also follow in this book through her perspective, and he is struggling internally with wanting to please his father and putting duty before himself, but also realizing that his father is like a heartless creature and what he does isn't necessarily good. And so he's in a constant struggle with both himself and his sense of duty and his sense of kingdom, as he constantly is fighting with what he feels like is right and what he feels like is wrong, and those definitions of those are always fluctuating for him and the reader. Amari and him are obviously siblings, and they're both kind of at odds with each other, as they feel like there are two different goals that they're trying to achieve, but they both have incredible love for each other, and they both have this very tragic and complicated upbringing of being raised in a castle by a very dominant father figure who is very cruel, which obviously impacted both of them in very different ways, but they both have a lot of empathy and understanding and sympathy for the other sibling. Amari, as a perspective, I have to say she might have been my favorite just because her particular character arc was such a joy to read from. She started in this novel. I see her grow as a very timid and scared princess who hasn't really encountered a lot of the world outside of the walls. We also get to see her learn and grow as she gains not only perspective of the kingdom around her, but also come into herself as she finds incredible strength, not only like physically, because the girl is a great sword fighter, but also just believing in her own feelings and beliefs and what she feels like she can do to help change the world around her was just so inspiring. Plot-wise, this novel is incredibly complex and rich. The world itself is not only so creative, I really enjoy the magic system, all of these individuals who once had powers had like a specific type of power. You could be controlling of the dead, you can control fire, you can be a healer. So there's a lot of different ways magic can manifest, which I always think is really awesome. But beyond that, the setting is so cool. This novel has a journey aspect that's kind of present throughout the entire thing, so we get to experience so many different villages and towns as the characters pass through them, and each one is not only unique and rich in its own right, but just like so vividly crafted that I just could not. But now we gotta move into like the plot itself. This book is a page turner. Literally, I sat down and read 300 pages in just one sitting. I flew through it. I did it in 2 hours. I was so enraptured by what was going on that I literally felt like I entered a reading zone. I've never read that fast before in my entire life, and I was like so sad to have to be torn away to go do like normal world things, because all I wanted to do was finish this book. You're completely just not, you're pulled into the plot by the characters, what's going on. The pacing of this book is perfection. You always feel like there's stakes, but there's also like perfect ebbs and flows. You're not always like tense, but you're also waiting for something to happen, if that makes sense. It's just so well done. That being said, this book is like the first in what I feel like is gonna be an epic series. I mean, it just felt like the beginning. Like everything that happened almost felt like the origin story to what the explosive next books are going to be. I mean, the ending of this novel just had me absolutely flabbergasted. I don't know how I'm gonna wait for the next book to come out. It just is so good. Everything about this book was just epic, creative, fantastic, mesmerizing, just awesome. Just plain awesome. I feel like I'm just like word vomiting in this video, but to be honest, it was just such a great experience to read this book. It was a wonderful story that I absolutely fell into head first. Could not recommend it more. I obviously gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. Hopefully, this turns out more eloquent than I feel like it is. At the end of the day, I just want you to understand that this book is both wonderfully crafted, very well written, incredibly creative, full of fantastic dynamic character perspectives that you can't help but to love and sometimes hate a little bit. The struggles that we have to witness these characters go through are heart-wrenching and unbelievably relatable to the world today in so many ways, and I just feel like this book is dynamic and powerful, and I'm just so excited to see what this author comes out with after this series and forever, because her writing is so good. I loved it. So, yep. Alrighty guys, that was my long and maybe incoherent review of Children of Blood and Bone. It was incredible. I highly recommend you guys go pick it up. Again, I have Own Voices reviews linked down below, so please go check that out for other perspectives on this story. It was really fantastic. I can't wait for this movie that's gonna come out hopefully tomorrow, because I don't know how I'm gonna wait. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye!